الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين خاتم النبيين محمد المصطفى وعلى آله وأصحابه أولي الصدق والصفاء أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى جل جلاله في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده ليلا من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى الذي باركنا حوله لنريه من آياتنا إنه هو السميع البصير صدق الله مولانا العظيم وبلغنا رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا حبيب الله الصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا حبيب الله الصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا حبيب الله. Highly respectable audience, I am here to celebrate the auspicious day of ascension of Nabi Kareem alayhi salatu wasalam. And I was talking about the journey beyond Sidratul Muntaha. At that time, a question arises that why these buildings of the skies were built up. What was the use of that? Then Hadith Lolak comes in front. Nabi Pak was reported to have said, Lolaka, this is Hadith Qudsi. Nabi Pak is reporting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have said, Lolaka, if you had not been there, Lama khalaqtul aflaq, I would not have created the skies. These celestial buildings were just created and built up just for yourself. So here, many persons say that this tradition is fabricated, but not fabricated. First person who called it to be fabricated, he says that it is not in direct speech, but it is indirect speech, and all of the traditions are indirect speech. When the meanings were delegated to Nabi Kareem Sallallahu and Nabi Pak Sallallahu was authorized to interpret them in his own words. So that is called Hadith Qudsi. This is Hadith Qudsi. Imam Saghani says that this is a fabricated in respect of the words. All of the tradition, only 2 or 3 traditions are there which are in the direct. Innamal a'malu bin niyat. This is a direct speech of the tradition, but all of the others and 1 or 2 more traditions are there which are in the direct speech. Otherwise, the companions of the Holy Prophet would sit in the meeting of Nabi Kareem and used to listen Nabi Karim Sallallahu the precept, and they could not preserve the real words of the traditions, and they preserved the gist of and meaning of Nabi Karim Sallallahu, and they interpreted in their own words. So here Imam Saghani says that this is marfu, elevated, means reaches to the lips of Nabi Karim Sallallahu, but in direct speech. And it was emphasized by other traditionists. Allama Imam Mawardi Rahmatullah says that Ibn Ishaq in Ibn Asakir and Imam Asfani in Tabrani says that Lawlaka lama khalaqtul jannah. If you had not been there, I would not have created the paradise. Paradise is just to accommodate your devotees, your fans, and your followers. Otherwise, there was no any other purpose or any other usage for the creation of paradise. Lawlaka lama khalaqtul jannata wan nar. If you had been not there, I would not have created the paradise and the hell as well. But I would like to analyze this tradition. This is called conditional sentence, jumla shartiya, conditional proposition. There are two parts of this proposition. Proposition means kaziya, the complete sentence. It contains two parts. One of that is called antecedent, and the other part is called subsequent. The first part is antecedent, the second part is the consequent, which means that the first part is a cause and the second part is effect. Means you are the cause of the universe. It means that before the creation of universe, you were there. You are present there. It means that Nabi Karim was not in his stage or in existence. He was not in need of paradise or hell or earth or sky. He was before the creation of universe there. It means that he can exist without the creation of the sky and the earth. But earth and sky cannot stay, cannot survive without support of Nabi Karim Sallallahu. वो जो न थे तो कुछ न था, वो जो न हो तो कुछ न हो, जान है वो जहान की, जान है तो जहान है. This is answer to all of the questions. When a person says that there is a Tanween, new nation, two diacritical signs, two fatah, two zamma, two kasra, do zeren, do zabren, do peshen. They are called new nations. So new nation is of five kind. One of them is for takleel, to show very small part. Laylan, it was neonated by tanween of takleel, which shows that the full night was not used. Only small part of the night was used. So tradition says that it was night of 18 years. But here Quran says, Laylan, a small part of the night was used for the journey of Nabi Karim Sallallahu. It was an external, it was excursion trip of Nabi Karim Sallallahu. It was just a sair excursion trip of Nabi Karim Sallallahu. So when Nabi Karim Sallallahu went to La Makan, so Makan was vacant from Nabi Karim Sallallahu. Jaan hai wo jahan ki, jaan hai to jahan hai. The moon, where it was. It stayed there because the life of the moon has gone to La Makan. The sun stayed wherever it was, because the life of sun was Nabi Kareem Sallallahu when he went to La Makan without any Makan, without any entity of the word, then the sun stayed wherever it was. And the fumes which were rising from the bed of Nabi Kareem Sallallahu they could not they could not rise. They could not arise because the fumes of the bed were in need of life. Life has gone to La Makan. And there is a tradition which says that when Nabi Karim came back, the bolt of the door was waving. It is pendulum. It was waving right and left. Why? Because when the door was open, the kundi of the door was waving. When Nabi Karim went to La Makan, that stayed wherever it was. And in the absence of Nabi Karim, it was 18 years. But when Nabi Karim came back, the kundi started to move here and there, just like pendulum. The pendulum of the deer began to wave, and the fumes began to arise. Similarly, all of the system of life restarted again. We can easily say that Laulaka, this is Qudsi, Laulaka lama khalaqtul jannah. O my holy Prophet, if you had not been there, I would not have created the paradise. It means that when Nabi Kareem was created, there was no earth, no sky, no paradise, no hell, no other creature. It means that Nabi Kareem is not dependent to anything except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And everything except Allah was dependent to the existence of Nabi Kareem. वो जो न थे तो कुछ न था, वो जो न हो तो कुछ न हो, जान है वो जहान की, जान है तो जहान है. Nabi Kareem, Raufur Rahim, Sallallahu Ta'ala Alaihi Wasallam was mentioned as Abad. You should check the word of Abad. There is a principle, grammatical principle and semantic principle. Grammatical, ilme nav, ilme sarf, morphology and semantics, ilme bayan, ilme badi, or morphology, all of the linguistic sciences, mission, eloquence, balagat. The speech is brought after having checked the position of the addressee. According to his demand, one is duty bound to bring his speech. That is called eloquence. And oratory. Oratory means a science which explains one thing in many expressions, but the meanings are the same. That is called ilme bayan. And third one is ilme badi. Ilme badi means just to decorate the words, just to beautify the expression, just to beautify the setting of the words. Just a listener person becomes happy to listen those words. These three sciences are called ilme semantics, ilme maani, and all of the things are mentioned there. So according to the grammatical system and semantic rules, we shall explain Abdan Asra bi Abdihi. The word was Abd was mentioned. This is not proper name of Nabi Kareem Sallallahu. when an adjective, an attribute, or, or predicative noun is used, when it cannot clarify the situation, the original name is also mentioned. Just like when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Uzkur abdana Dawood az-ad. Remember my slave. And after that, the name of Dawood was mentioned because the abdiyat of Hazrat Dawood was shared by the other prophet as well. Therefore, it was not clarified that it was signifying Hazrat Dawood said, Wazkur abdana Dawood az-ad. Remember my beloved Abd, beloved, the beloved slave, whose name is Hazrat Dawood. Similar, sir, Wazkur Abdana Ibrahim, and remember my beloved slave Ibrahim al-Islam. Zikr Rahmat Rabbika Abdahu Zakaria. This is the story of Rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is Hazrat Zakaria alayhi. The word of Abd was also mentioned, and the original name was also mentioned, because in the Abdiyat was shared, Abdiyat of Dawood alayhi was shared by the other prophet as well. And the Abdiyat of Hazrat Ayyub alayhi was Qur Abdana Ayyub. Remember my beloved slave, whose name is Ayyub. The original name was also mentioned, and the quality name was also mentioned, because those qualities were shared by the other prophets as well. But Subhanallah Asra bi Abdihi, all of the glorification of that person who took his beloved slave to the excursion trip. Here only said Abd, but did not mention the original name, did not say that bi Abdihi Muhammad. Muhammad was not mentioned here, because this is the quality which was not shared by any other prophet. It means that the qualities of Nabi Kareem are not shared by anybody else. Abdiyat is the lowest quality of Nabi Kareem. When the lowest quality of Muhammad Mustafa cannot be shared, so the highest quality, how can be shared? وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. O my holy prophet, I did not send you but a blessing, full blessing for the total universe. And Rashid Ahmad Gangoi, Shaykhul Hadith Deoband, he writes in his Fatawa Rashidiya, he says that every Maulana can be Rahmatul Alameen. So these are the views which are very blasphemous, which are not suitable for the Muslim to be pronounced. Muslim has got no right to make anybody else shareholder with Nabi Kareem al-Sallam. Here Allah says, Asra bi abdihi. All of the glorifications are for that person who took his beloved slave to the excursion trip. Here, bi abdihi said, but did not mention Muhammadin. Lamma kam Abdullah kadu yakulun alayhi libada. When the beloved slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, means Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu, stand up to worship Allah, kadu yakunun alayhi libada. It was very near that they engulf him, encircle him. Here Abdullah was said about Nabi Kareem al-Sallam, but this adjective, this attributive noun was used for Nabi Kareem al-Sallam, but the original name was not mentioned. It means that the abdiyat of Nabi Kareem al-Sallam was not shared by all of the prophets. When prophet cannot share the quality of Nabi Kareem al-Sallam, how a common Maulana can say that Ana Basharum Misrokum clarifies that we are just like Nabi Karim al-Sassam. Nabi Karim al-Sassam, this was said not in the meaning of similarity, but it was just for the negation of divinity. Mean I am not God. Ana Basharum Misrokum. But Mumasalat, the similarity was explained. Annama ilahukum ilahum wahid. You are my shareholder in the worshipping of God. Your God is the same as that of mine. My God and your God. We are similar to each other in the worshipping of Allah, but not in any matter. My birth is different. The other people, when they are born, they are a bad smelling. They are very smelly. All of the locality becomes full of the disgusting smell. But when I came there, उनकी महक ने दिल के गुनचे खिला दिए हैं जिस राह चल दिए हैं कूचे बसा दिए हैं. So my life is different, my birth is different, my living is different. لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة. You are not a typical example to be followed. My life was clarified according to the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I am a role model which can be followed. Allah says, if you want to become a good person, you should follow the example of life of Muhammad Sallallahu. My birth was perfuming the atmosphere, and when you are born, only inside of the room there is a light, but at my birth, all of the universe was illuminated. The stars of the sky came down, and here there, नूर अंदर नूर बाहर कूचा कूचा नूर है बल्कि यूं कहिए कि सब दुनिया की दुनिया नूर है. And my death is also different. How can you be like me? No prophet can say that I am similar to Muhammad Mustafa alayhi sallam. My death is when Nabi Karim sallam was about to leave this world. Malakul Maut, the angel of death, came there. Nabi Karim sallam said, I have known that you are very touching. You torture the dead body, and he realizes the torture. So he said, if you are taking out a small thorn in the body, the body pains. So when the soul are withdrawn from the body, it is quite obvious that the body pains. The dying person also feels the tortured. It is fact. Then Nabi Karim said, if you in fact torching the dead bodies, the full power you are using on my ummah collectively utilize on my body, and you should facilitate the death of every one of my follower to be very easy so that nobody should feel any tortured. And Nabi Karim Salam and other facilities also provided for the dying person. Oh my ummadi, don't be afraid of anything. Marra'ani fil maname, sayyarani fil yaksate. Whosoever dreams me of. So it is a promise with him. Unless I meet with him in the wakeness, he cannot die. Means wait for me. The time will come when you are awake and alive, and I shall come. You would see my face, and after that, wow, Imam Ismail Haqi Afandi writes in Tafsir Ruhul Bayan. He says that once upon a time, I studied a tradition of Nabi Karim Sallallahu, which says that the death of a true believer is easier than a small hair taken out from the dough. In Urdu says from the from the cream, from the butter. But Arab says that there is no chance for butter to receive the hair of a woman. But when she does the flour, so ball can drop. Nabi Karim Rasam said, his death is easier than drying the hair from the dough. And I was very suspicious. I was believing the quotation of Nabi Karim Rasam, the precept of Nabi Karim Rasam are exactly right, but in the objectivity means out of the mind. That was very, very dangerous. Then I slept. As soon as I slept, I dreamt of Nabi Karim Sallallahu. He said, the answer of your question is in Surah Yusuf. And I opened the Surah Yusuf and began to check it. فَلَمَّا رَأَيْنَهُ أَكْبَرْنَهُ وَقَطَّعْنَا أَيْدِيَهُنَّ وَقُلْنَا حَاشَ لِلَّهِ مَا هَذَا بَشَرًا إِلَّا مَلَكٌ كَرِيمٌ. When the women of Misr, Egypt, happened to see the face of Hazrat Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, so they were absorbed, they were indulged in the beauty of Hazrat Joseph, and instead of apple, they began to cut their hand. So they could not realize, that they are cutting themselves. So Nabi Karim Rasul told him that when I promise you that you cannot die before seeing me in the alive position, I come at the time of his death. So when the women of Egypt cannot realize their injuries, they themselves are cutting themselves, but they cannot realize the pain. So if a person visits my face and he is absorbed in my love, how can he feel that I am going to die? But without his knowledge, his death occurs. So then Nabi Karim Sallallahu wanted to make them share, you are not like me. Abdan bi abdihi laylan. All of the glorifications are for that person who took his beloved slave to the excursion trip. Abd was mentioned, but the real name was not mentioned. And in the second stage of the Holy Quran, Quran says, Tabarakallazi nazal al-furqana ala abdihi liyakuna lil alamina nazira. All of the hymns and admirations are for the entity who revealed the book on his beloved slave. Here, beloved slave is Nabi Karim Rasam. Abd was mentioned, but the original name was not mentioned. It means that the abdiyat of Nabi Karim Rasam is also matchless. When his abdiyat is matchless, cannot be similar to other abdiyat. So how Nabi Karim Rasam himself can be compared with many other bodies? Quran says in another place, Alhamdulillah allazi anzala ala abdihil kitaba walam yaj'al lahu iwaja. All of the admirations and all of the eulogization are for the person who revealed the book on his beloved slave, and that was also Nabi Karim Sallallahu. Here, adjective was mentioned, but the original name was not mentioned, because this, when it was used in favor of Nabi Karim Sallallahu, it became matchless, means no prophet, no Maulana, no other can share the quality of Nabi Karim Sallallahu. So, Asra bi abdihi Layla. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is glorified because he took his beloved slave to the place where nobody can go. And now we shall discuss the matter. So this was ideological matter that Nabi Karim Rasul went to the first sky, second sky, third sky, fourth sky, fifth sky, and sixth sky, or seventh sky, and thought of these are metaphysical matter, means these are out of the senses, the eyesight, the touching power, the tasting power, the listening power cannot realize all these facts. Such facts are called metaphysical matters. Therefore, it was going to be explained in front of the non-Muslims. This is the main point of the Hajj Sharif, Miraj Sharif. It was going to be explained, to be proclaimed in front of Abu Jahl as well, Abu Lahab as well. Therefore, it was necessary for the Holy Prophet to produce the evidence which can be apprehended by them. When Nabi Karim Rasul came back from the journey of Miraj Sharif, so all of the matter of Miraj Sharif, coming of Gabriel was also metaphysical matter, ideological matter. It could not be sensed. It could not be sensed. And the procession of the angels were also an ideological matter which could not be checked, which could not be changed by the non-Muslims. Then Nabi Karim Rasul was duty bound to prove the authenticity of his Miraj Sharif, his ascension, to the infidel as well. When he came back and reached Makkah Sharif, and Nabi Karim Rasul was sitting in Haram Sharif, Abu Jahl came there. He was ruler of, chief of the aristocracy. There was a system of aristocracy in Hijaz Sharif, and he was chief of the state. And he would come early in the morning to Haram Sharif because some people would come there and leave their attributes or consecration there. So he found that Nabi Karim Rasul was there. He said, "Have you got any new thing?" He said, "Tonight I went from the mosque of Mecca to the mosque of Baitul Maqdis, and I came back and I really led the prayer of the prophets, and all of the prophets was behind me. And from that place I came back in the night. He began to jump. He began to jump with happiness. He said, "Today I have got enough time, enough reasons to falsify the Nabi Karim al-Salam." He tried his best to collect the people in front of Nabi Karim al-Salam. He said, "Whatever you said in my presence, please repeat the same words in the presence of these people as well." It means that he wanted to strengthen his claim that Nabi Karim was not a truthful person, but he was telling a lie. And in this same research and same struggle, he went to outside and happened to meet with Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu. He said, "Oh Abu Bakr, today I got a thing which you will have to believe me, and you will have to separate from your yar." He said yar, not prophet, because he was not pronouncing the word of Rasul. He said, "Today," he said, "such a things will cannot be certified by you. You cannot endorse it. You cannot emphasize it. You will have to believe me." Hazrat Siddiq radiallahu said, "What happened?" He said, "Your Sahib says that I went from here, from Mecca to Baitul Maqdis Sharif, and I led the prayer of the prophets, and I came back in the same night. But you know that there are 120 days required for approaching there, and how can one go there in one night and come back? Hazrat Siddiq radiallahu anhu said, did he say, have you listened to him? He said, I did listen. I am sure that he said like that. He said, if he pronounced these words, I believe that these are truths. At that very time, he was named as Siddiq. Hazrat Siddiq radiallahu anhu, here a principle also was also achieved, that the reporter was infidel, and report of infidel cannot be certified, cannot be accepted, because the tradition about the ideology must be conclusive, and report submitted by the non-Muslim can never be authenticated, cannot be conclusive, because Hadith says he is defined by Muqaddama ibn Salah, Mattasala sanaduhu bil udul zabitina min ghairi shuzun wala illa. When the word of Nabi Karim was listened by some person, and he must be adil, means his personal character must be strong, must be purifiable, and and after that his memory should be very strong. Udul is zabitina. Udul means whose practice is good, whose belief is good, his ideology is also right, his practice is also right, personal life is also qualifiable, and also his memory is also nice. Bizabt, bil udul is zabitina. Zabitin, who have got good memories, they never forget. The receiving person should be with this quality, and he should be able to communicate to the person like himself. Bid ududil zabitina min ghairi shuzuzin, without any rarity, without rarity. Shaz is a hadith when a very authenticated reporter submits the report against the very strong person. So that hadith is called Shaz. So that Shaz hadith is not acceptable. We do the Bugari Shazuz and Wala Illa, means Illa means there is no disconnection in the channel of authority. The people of channel of authority should be well known and qualified and authenticated by the traditionist. So here, this is the first condition was the good ideology. Abu Jahl was not with good ideology. But why Hazrat Siddiq radiallahu anhu certified it? It means that Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu ki Zat Pak, he gave a methodology that if a report is submitted by a non-Muslim, but that is creditable for Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so you should accept. But if a tradition is reported by Maulana, but causing the discredit to Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you should curse that Maulana, and you should spit that tradition which was reported by that person. So this principle was used by Imam Bukhari. Hurrimat alaykum ummahatukum allati ardanakum. Here Imam Bukhari says that when Nabi Karim sallallahu was born, Swaba, the maid slave of Abu Lab went quickly to the master Abu Lab because he was uncle of Nabi Karim Sallallahu. He submitted the report. He said, your brother's home, his son was born, और वो कमाल हुस्न हुजूर है कि गुमान नक्श जहां नहीं, यही फूल खार से दूर है, यही शमा है कि धुआं नहीं. There is a person, पेशे नजर ये नौ बहार, सिजदे को दिल है बेकरार, पर रोकिए सर को रोकिए, हाँ यही इम्तिहान है. So it is really a great examination for a person who sees Muhammad Mustafa. He begins to believe that he is Allah, because the returning the disappeared son back to the Asr prayer, it was practiced by Nabi Karim Rasul. So returning the son back, it is speciality of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Ibrahim was reported by Holy Quran, he said to Namrud, if you are claiming the divinity, you should bring the sun from Maghrib, from the place of sunset. It means that at that time, at this question, the Namrud was really lost their senses. He could not answer. So according to the Quranic statement that it was approved that the bringing back the sun after disappearing, it is the speciality of Allah. When Nabi Karim showed that speciality, so it was possible for a person to think like that and to say Nabi Karim to be Allah. But at that time said, Ana Basharum Misrokum. So this was not for the proclamation of Bashariyat, but it was a proclamation that I am not Allah. And it was mentioned to Abu Lab, but we shall see, we shall check the matter, we shall check the background of this tradition. When it was mentioned in Bukhari Sharif, we can say that, oh Hazrat Imam Bukhari, you are very scrupulous. You are splitting the hair to research the fact. So how could you insert that tradition which was reported by non-Muslim and two non-Muslims, and after his death he was dreamt of by Hazrat Abbas. He asked him how it is going on. He said, I am very, very bad position. My position is really very bad, very, very dreadful. And only that the end of the finger which I moved in the happiness of birthday of Nabi Karim Sallallahu. Every Monday I received certain matter from that one. So the punishment of 1 week is subsides. So I am getting the benefit of that movement of my finger. So look, this is admitted fact that no practice in the life of the infidelity can be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we shall appreciate the dignity of birthday of Nabi Karim Sallallahu, that even if he was infidel, but when he moved his finger in the happiness of birthday of Nabi Karim Sallallahu, so he got the benefit. So it means that the general principle is that any practice, any good or any virtue attempted in the life of infidelity cannot be beneficial for any infidel. But this is the abnormal question, abnormal matter, speciality of Nabi Karim Sallallahu. Even if he was infidel, but when he showed the happiness by moving the finger at the time of birthday of Nabi Karim Sallallahu. So he benefited from the movement. So now we shall check it. When Hazrat Abbas dropped him off, he was Muslim or not Muslim. Even if there are tradition which says that he was internally Muslim, but externally he was not confessing, he was not acknowledging. But no authenticated proof can be achieved in this matter. At that time, he himself was not Muslim. When the reporting person was not Muslim and he was in dead in the vagueness, many questions arises there that the tradition should be accepted or not accepted. But the reporting person was also infidel, and the receiving person received the report in the dream, and he himself was not Muslims. So the channel of authority was dubitable, but the tradition was accepted by Imam Bukhari. So Imam Bukhari learned the lesson from the attitude of Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala, that when he submitted the report about the quotation of Nabi Karim al-Sam, since it was going to the credit of Nabi Karim al-Sam, he accepted promptly. It means that if any tradition is submitted, even if it is weak, but it is creditable for Nabi Karim al-Sam, everyone should happily and promptly accept. But here, Hazrat Siddiq radiallahu anhu came there. This is the gist of MIRAJ Sharif, which is going to be started now. And many persons he collected there just to authenticate his witness, his evidence. Hazrat Siddiq radiallahu anhu said, I believe the news of above the sky. So these news are worthier with the strong reason to be accepted. I strongly recommend it. Here, Hazrat Abu Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala has gone there for many times. Therefore he said, O Nabi Karim sallallahu, let me know the situation of Baitul Maqdis Sharif and illustrate and define, describe the situation, the structure, the material, the doors, the counting of the windows, the ventilators, the height of the wall. Everything should be explained. You should explain to me. It was not for Hazrat Abu Siddiq radiallahu anhu, but it was just to assure, to ascertain the fact in front of the infidels. When Nabi Karim Sallallahu said, I was really in anxiety at that time, but at the same times, Baitul Maqdis Sharif was brought there and it was put near the house of Hazrat Aqil. Nowadays, that area is called Hara Ijaba. And that is very special hospital as well. And when they questioned how many doors are there, I began to count them because I had gone there as a prophet, not as an engineer. I am living in a house, but I am just living. I cannot tell the count of the windows, the ventilators, the doors. Nabi Karim Sallallahu did not pay any attention to the material, but now when they asked how was the doors, Nabi Karim Sallallahu, the structure of the doors illustrated by means of the words, and everything was explained. Here, many persons say that if Nabi Karim Sallallahu was Ghaib clairvoyant, Ghaib means clairvoyant. If Nabi Karim Sallallahu was clairvoyant, then he should have been able to to explain everything from there. And Baitul Maqdis Sharif was situated in Baitul Maqdis. So we can say that, look, when it was brought in Makkah Sharif, it was put there. Only one could see it, who was clairvoyant. It was disappeared. It was obscure from the eyes of all of the other persons. No participants of that meeting was able to see Baitul Maqdis Sharif. So here we can easily say that Baitul Maqdis Sharif was there or not. The structure of Baitul Maqdis Sharif was in Baitul Maqdis, and here it was present in front of Nabi Kareem Sallallahu. So it means that it was possible for a debris to be present at two different places. So why it is not possible for a prophet to be present at the same times? This proves that Nabi Kareem Sallallahu omnipresent. He is Hazar Nazir. And so it was possible for him, but a procedure was changed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It was duty of every prophet to check the place where something was to be checked. Rasul was to observe the site where they were going to check. Salam was king of total earth, and the prophet was for Bani Israel. At the time of necessity, Uduwuha Sharum Warawaku Ashar, his throne was blown away in the space by air, without any diesel, without any petrol, without any oil. He was flying in the space. But when the go of Nabi Kareem Rasam came, Allah said, Inna Allah zawali al-arda ra'ato masharikaha wa magharibaha. Allah Rabbul Izzat changed this procedure. He said, it is not your duty to go at the site, but it is site's duty to come in front of you when you want to see. So at that time, the infidels of Mecca, they began to see that if you have factually went there, so please, our caravan had gone there for on the business trip. So please let us know where they are and what is their position. Nabi Kareem said, I happened to meet with first caravan at that place at Rauha, where when the infidel of Mecca went back from Ukhad Sharif, then Nabi Kareem sent Hazrat Qarar when he was badly injured. That is called Roha. When I reached Roha, so I saw the first caravan, and there was a bowl of water, and I took the water. I drank the water, and I saw the other caravan at the other place, and there was a camel in front of all of the caravan, and two socks of the cereal were loaded on the saddle of that camel, and he was scared, and he ran and fell, and its leg was fractured. At the third one, I saw that very near to Tanaim, and he told the time of arrival. It was the matter of his personal experience that he met with the caravans, but the time of arrival was a matter of unseen secret, clairvoyance. It was a clairvoyance. This was the evidence which was very very objective, empirical evidence. Means it can be experimented, experienced. Such an evidence called empirical evidence. Nobody can refuse it, whether Muslim, non-Muslims. The coming of the caravan, the time of arrival. The time of arrival was also fixed by Nabi Karim Rasul. At that time, the believer also gathered there, or certain Muslims apostatized at that time. But that was very difficult time. At that difficult time, Hazrat Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala established a very good example. He said, this is a normal matter. I am believing in him, in reporting the matter above the sky, above the throne of Allah. So these are the deserving matters with the strong reasons to be believed in. Then when these matters was predicted by Nabi Karim Rasul that caravan will at that time, the other caravan will reach there at that time. And one caravan reported by Nabi Karim Rasul to arrive Wednesday before evening. The two parties gathered there, but the tribe of non-Muslims was to show that the Nabi Karim Rasul does not know the unseen secret. The tribe of the believers were they were trying to prove the knowledge of Nabi Karim Rasul that he is clairvoyant. The clairvoyance was asked by the Muslims from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It means that these are two different trends. One party likes to show Nabi Karim Rasul ignorant of clairvoyance, and the other party tries to prove the clairvoyance of Nabi Karim Rasul. So nowadays we can check the two type of trends. So the trend of Sahaba Ikram was to establish the knowledge of clairvoyance of Nabi Karim Rasul. But one caravan came near about the midday, and the other caravan began to be waited. And other caravan, Nabi Karim Rasul said, I saw it nearby Tanim, where from the resident of Mecca Sharif, where Ihram for Umrah Sharif. That place is called Tanaim. So that was very near to Tanaim. And when it was evening of Wednesday, and the sun was very near to disappear, when they began to make a noise that, oh, the day of the Wednesday is going to finish. At the same time, the believers cried out that the caravan has also reached there. So this was empirical evidence which proves all of the matter, because the other parts of MIRAJ Sharif could not be checked by the infidels, but this empirical evidence was furnished by Nabi Karim Rasul at the end of MIRAJ Sharif, so that when they believe to the authenticity of this part, so this part would be an evidence for the rest part of MIRAJ Sharif. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ الْمُبِينُ وَآخِرُ دَعْوَانَا أَنِ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ.